do everything I just said, plus throw a knife, hack an enemy, lob a grenade, or shoot a missile before the air takedown in one seamless motion.
Crappy cop mobs.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah. That are boring.
This is called player expressionism. This mechanic also encourages emergent gameplay versus static gameplay. For example, if the player is about to get detected in combat and they want to use the air takedown, they can use something like the optional camo ability to safely exit detection range, giving them the chance to reposition for this mechanic. This is what I'm talking about when I talk about game mechanics. It's not just that the game has an air takedown. It's the fact that it's integrated.
I try to keep Sentinel Hill stocked, and that's not easy with all the action we see.
It's directly dependent on how the player is engaging with the game. Meaning, if the player is smart enough and is good enough, they can do some pretty crazy shit in this game, and it's awesome. This freedom encourages creative, stylized gameplay, which is essentially another way of saying that a game mechanic has depth. Because if this air dash
if only the game was good.
Button prompts rather than being initialized by player awareness, it would simply be just another bad mechanic. And I could go on about the near limitless amount of options in this one game.
Near limitless.
Mechanics must not only feel good,
right.
but combine well and interact.
There's stealth,
what the rest of the game.
Guns, and knives. There's not even magic really. There's like hacking, but it's not like fireballs or anything like that. Like it's actually fairly limited in its reach. It's Grand Theft Auto combat.
So does Starfield offer any game mechanics?
Starfield had a lot more diversity than Cyberpunk did when it came to that.
Functionality. Does Starfield have any game mechanics at all? Well, the answer is
no, not really.
As the player in Starfield, you can essentially shoot, use grenades, use mines, which are useless because no human enemy is ever going to walk up to you. They always run away or sit behind cover, or walk up and smack someone in the head with a knife. And oh my god, the melee system in Starfield. I mean, this is 1999 here. There are essentially no melee mechanics at all. No takedowns, no combos, no special attacks, and one of the worst stealth systems I've ever seen in a game next side of golf.
It's still better than Cyberpunk.
Literally zero interesting mechanics to use in a game that is set in the fucking future. Like, nothing? Not even a distraction system? No mechanics at all?
I'm just kidding. The combat in Cyberpunk is fine.
Powers to spice things up, but none of them interact in any way. Once again, no mechanics at all. Partially because powers have no direct interactions, and also because you don't have the mana to use two powers in a row that could have interacted anyway. For example, Gravity Well and Sunless Space. In theory, you could imagine a very simple interactive combo using these two powers. The player uses Gravity Well to pull in 2 to 3 enemies. Then they swap to Sunless Space and freeze them. Sunless Space has a splash radius to it, so it's the perfect complement to Gravity Well, which sucks enemies into the center of it. This is a very basic interactive combination that is not possible in Starfield. Once you cast Gravity Well, you don't have enough mana, and when you regen enough mana to use Sunless Space, the Gravity Well has expired. Now take, for example, another power which does not synergize with Starfield's
Welcome to my
supporting
inn, weary
mechanics.
traveler. What can I do for you?
Grab Dash. Grab Dash is Starfield's dash, for lack of a better word. I guess it would be prudent of me to mention that you don't actually get to use this ability until you've unlocked it through story progress, which could be anywhere from 5 to 80 hours, depending on if you story immediately or if you look around for 3 weeks. This gating mechanism, in my opinion, is ridiculous, as is locking the ability to slide or hover while firing behind skill tree progression, the latter of which could take you an eternity because it's in the final tier of the tech tree. Regardless, that's really not the point here. The point is that Grab Dash is not implemented well as a video game mechanic for 2 reasons. One, it's jank. It feels awful. And this goes back to the integration that I previously mentioned. Grab Dash is not only clunky, but it has these weird, slow startup frames, making it feel really bad to use. moves. There's like this little delay that's really annoying. It also feels weightless and floaty. Just because grab dash is an alien power doesn't mean we don't have to add things like screen displacements, body movement, and connects to make it feel physical. It's just lazy. But more importantly and secondly, using grab dash destroys your character's momentum, especially if you're airborne. In games like Cyberpunk, dashes are linked directly, at least as best they can, without making it feel too slippery with the player's movement. This means you can be running or jumping, hit dash, and then when the dash ends, your character moves at about the same rate as you were prior to the initial dash. This is typically best practice because nobody wants to use dash and feel like they're being slowed down. This is particularly bad in Starfield because all of the game's exploration requires large amounts of on-foot traveling amidst the sea of rather empty, barren planets. Because the game doesn't have any land vehicles, which is also lame, it would have been very nice if grab dash was animated smoothly into the player's movements so that momentum could be kept. Close your eyes and you can instantly imagine chaining grab dashes with your hover pack while moving around the planets to cut down on travel time, if even for a little bit, but you can't. While on the ground, grab dash is also not implemented well, as when you use it, you're automatically placed into the walking animation afterwards, even if you're running when you input grab dash. This is one of those subtle indications that the developers of Starfield lacked foresight. In order to keep sprinting after you grab dash in Starfield, the player must hit the sprint key a second time, and if the timing isn't perfect, your character will not begin to run, and it's actually really hard to get the timing right. This is precisely how it's set up with the slide key as well, causing the player to briefly stumble while trying to get back into the running animation after the slide. Cyberpunk 2077 again solved this 3 years ago. In this game, if the player slides when sprinting, V stays crouched when the slide is finished. This, in some cases, is exactly what the player wants, especially if he or she is playing sneaky. After all, you can imagine wanting to do something as simple as sliding into cover to avoid detection. But unlike Starfield, Cyberpunk knows that in aggressive scenarios, or when just running around the city, the player is going to want to dash while sprinting and continue sprinting afterwards without the need for another input, or without the game hitching the character's movement, because that's always annoying. And that's exactly what you can do. This setup is the best of both worlds to any player. A tool for stealth, and a tool to keep sprinting momentum, with the animation either way linking perfectly into each state. But that's not even the best part. V can actually do partial slides, depending on how much pressure is put on that input. And in this scenario, V will do a partial slide, stand up, and continue running automatically in one seamless motion. And this happens without any additional inputs from the player. And such is the case for the also often misunderstood bounce mechanic, which allows V to dash in midair and then hit jump the moment she hits any surface for a long jump, also known as a bounce. This freedom of movements is so precisely engineered that no hitching happens, providing total control, absolute readability, and seamless transitions. On the other hand, Starfield's parallel systems provide sluggish movements with unnecessary guessing games. Again, the dash doesn't have to be stylish, but it should be snappier and link up properly with the player's animations and movement options like sliding, which is also completely goddamn useless. These two movement options do not link up in any way. Speaking of the slide, it's horrendous. You can only slide 2 feet and you can't shoot or do anything while you're actually in the motion, such as the common slide into reload option that many games have.
Aggro.
It has quite literally zero utility in any way, and as it stands I have absolutely no idea why anyone would ever use this ability, especially in combat. Furthermore, there's next to zero weapon mechanics at all.
Aggro.
In Cyberpunk, you've got all these interesting mechanics like smart weapons, ricochet, power weapons, vulnerability points for extra damage, and some subtle features built into the skill trees like partial charges on tech weapons that give various special effects. Not to mention the very basic mechanics of bullet drop when shooting at long range. There's also various melee systems like throw weapons, executions, silent or lethal melee takedowns, body throwing, and even projectile parries with the use of swords. Again, I'm not saying that Starfield needs any of these mechanics. It needs its own, but they essentially do not exist, and that's the point. Unless by some miracle I missed something, the only true gameplay mechanic in Starfield is the slow motion option when you use your jetpack. If you jump and aim down sights, you get this nifty slow-mo feature, which is pretty useful for mowing down spacers, and it looks pretty cool 15 hours in when you make it to the bottom of the tech tree again. Thank God the game has powers which don't dramatically change up the gameplay, but at least there's something, even if most of them are completely situational to the point where you wouldn't even bother using them anyway. Now, acquiring these powers is something I can rail Starfield on until the end of time, but I won't bother you because everyone knows it's one of the most pathetic features in any game ever made. The truth is, I tried very hard to find anything cool about the gameplay in Starfield. This clip you're watching right now is about the most creative combat I've been able to come up with in Starfield, and honestly, it's pretty boring. I don't care if past Bethesda games had lackluster mechanics. Don't tell me that's fine because it's a Bethesda game. Starfield is a modern AAA game that feels at best a marginal upgrade in gameplay from its last title. The shooting is at best a modest improvement from Fallout 76, but that is not the standard for AAA gameplay. Other AAA games that do it best are the standard, which is why I'm pulling so many...
I thought the combat in 76 was way better. Way better. The melee, all of it.
Starfield is flat out dull in every way in comparison.
The gore, the gibs, all of it.
The
jibs.
Also just doesn't have any style to it. At the core, it feels uninspired. Gameplay, presentation,
76 was so fun
feels generic in every way
compared to this piece of crap.
Cyberpunk drips with style. You could taste it. There's an energy to everything. It's immersive and intimate. The characters have grit. They're intimidating. They're oppressive. And not cookie cutter or safe at all.
I do not agree at all. I thought V was the most cookie cutter fucking hero I've ever seen. No personality at all. Like Link from Zelda. No personality. I'm sorry. The other characters were good. They had personality. No, I did not find those characters compelling at all.
And can be as fast, slow, or crazy as you want it to be. No matter what, though, all the animations link up so buttery smooth, and just the basics like dashing creates screen displacement and visual feedback that's just so pleasing to
For the cop fights,
by the movements, with a
for fighting cops, all that for fighting cops and corpo guys at outposts. It's basically Far Cry. It is. It's like Far Cry. It's a boring gameplay loop. I tried and tried with Cyberpunk. I even went into the point where her partner dies and all this stuff, and I beat the game, but I was like, I don't know. Like, it was not memorable to me at all. I was drunk a lot when I played that game because I was like, yeah, it plays like Grand Theft Auto. I'm going to enjoy it like Grand Theft Auto. I'm going to play it like Grand Theft Auto, and I did. Oh, no.
Down and see the animation of your lower body. You can chain slides into parkour, air dash in any direction.
Yeah, you can do things in Cyberpunk, but not in Starfield. Because one is Grand Theft Auto. Thank you. You can do all that stuff in a Grand Theft Auto game. You can't do all that stuff in a Starfield game. And it's a bad comparison.
Before, offering so many options to install your own style into this game. And it's the small things too, like having actual healing animations when you pop your stims. The year is 2023 and Starfield does not bother with providing a healing animation. And don't say it's because you have a spacesuit on. Oh really? My character heals by telepathically communicating with herself? I didn't know my Starfield character had artificial communication implanted into her neurons. Blocky animations, boring conversations, stale writing, and lots of jank. Again, it's not that Starfield needs character because Cyberpunk has character, it's that Starfield needs character too. Starfield does have a couple cool features like audio and haptics that change based on your environment, but ultimately it just doesn't have any mechanics, big or small. No takedowns, no gore, the AI is pretty trash, favoring bullet sponginess only. Any weapon handling quirks are essentially gone, and the lack of virtually any bullet drop makes the gunplay extremely one-dimensional, even though there's also a tremendous amount of randomness with spread, which is a bizarre combination.
How low was he? Not at all.
Aggro.
The thing that sticks out even more than the flat mechanics, however, is how the gameplay doesn't truly evolve much, and this was the deal breaker for me. People talk a lot about gameplay progression,
my point.
assuming that a game evolves over the course of a playthrough. Many games adopt this philosophy, but Starfield
I think I
does
do
not.
want to
And the
put
easiest way to see this is to
improved
trace the gameplay
gouge.
back to the very beginning. And when you do, you might discover, as I did, that playing Starfield at the 50-hour mark actually doesn't feel that much different from the introductory shootout. If you examine the first combat scenarios of both Starfield and Cyberpunk 2077, they're actually pretty similar. Small area, just a few enemies, and the player pretty much has a pistol. In Cyberpunk, you could do some additional stealth, but even still, for most players, the encounters will likely pan out the same. But over the course, over the next 50 hours with Cyberpunk, you'll become a Night City god. All the tools and all the mechanics you're given will dramatically and fundamentally change your playstyle in so many ways. And the gameplay will fundamentally evolve to something that is barely recognizable to the first gig with Jackie. In contrast, Starfield feels no different from the start of the game to the end. You might pick up some new weapons, you might press the power button on your controller, or hover with your jetpack, but that is essentially it. The reason VATS was installed into Fallout was because Fallout also didn't have that many interesting mechanics, but at least it had VATS to bring it some character and style. And without VATS or any interesting mechanics, gameplay in Starfield is run-in-the-mill and not at all special.
That should have been in Starfield.
Combat more than the gunplay. It's actually pretty fun, even though it's very basic. And I do appreciate having thrusters and the speed wheel for optimal turning on the left side of the HUD. These are two solid features, and if used correctly, a la being a mechanic, you can go from being a floating box of junk with a big target on your back to a zippy and nimble starship capable of running down enemy aircraft depending on how you build your ship. The power allocation controls, however, were really poorly implemented and desperately need to prompt a slow motion effect when you begin to mess with it. Time dilation would be a perfect fit for both PC players and console players. Or if it was a design issue, how about one hotkey per power slot? Because it's really hard to manage all three of these mechanics at the same time on very hard difficulty when you're on the verge of death at every moment. Not to mention having to reach across the keyboard for the default healing hotkey makes it even more frustrating. Furthermore, it also sucks that you can't fly out into space in any way, as you're essentially confined into this small window of a playing field with a giant planet in front of you that gets no bigger or no smaller no matter what you do. It really is a shame how the entire Starship experience is limited to this square box of a space when you can imagine so many possibilities. More stations, more ships, more unique encounters, black holes, really anything to break up the endless samey space gameplay. However, the entire shipbuilding aspect of Starfield is pretty good. There's a lot of stuff to mess around with, and if you
No,
know
it
Lego
wasn't.
Ways, you can make some pretty awesome stuff. But the process of building can be pretty annoying. Not being able to save partial builds is extremely annoying, and I had many frustrating nights where I had to restart my shipbuilding process. Also, building high-tier ships with parts from multiple shipyards is absolutely stupid. I just don't have any other words for it. Many ship parts are tied to manufacturers' shipyards, and it's not uncommon to need access to several systems when building your ship. So in this case, the player has two options. One, start on an outpost landing pad and access the shipyard console. This will give you access to lots of ship parts from many different providers. However, of course, not all of them. The second option is for the player to start their ship build from a shipyard manufacturer, which then only gives them access to that manufacturer's parts though. Even if you've never played Starfield, you can already see what the problem is here. And that is that the player never has access to all the ship parts at a single location. So this presents a quandary, which is forcing the player to start building a ship with the limited parts they have before traveling to each manufacturer's star system in order
Hi guys,
to
I love you.
deliver the parts that they need. But in Starfield, you cannot save partial ship builds. So what the player then has to do is one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. And that is that the player will have to build an entire ship using parts that they will eventually have to replace with parts that they will buy in the future. And this creates multiple problems, such as the hassle to the player, wasting the player's time, and having to spend more money than you would by having to replace those parts. Logistically speaking, when building your ship, you will have to magically determine the exact specifications for each part as well, making sure to place the temporary parts into the ship build with the right slot connections, as if they would have had the slightest idea of how those future parts would connect to their current ship build anyway. Habs have different configurations. Wings have different configurations. Engines have different configurations. Every ship is unique and requires planning on how things are connected. So I say again, how the hell is anyone supposed to know how to do this? What Bethesda is asking you to do, if you want access to all the ship parts, is to learn how to see into the future. I mean, imagine the scenario. You start building your ship and you're scrolling through the list of engines you want. You realize at that moment that the game has 5 additional unique shipyard vendors that have custom engines that you might want to use. You haven't been to these shipyards yet, but you know they're out there. But you were, like me, too annoyed to sit through another 45 loading screens to travel out to these systems and back. So you're sitting there, thinking, this sucks. But then you realize even more so, engines have different connection blocks to them, and not all of those engines you might want to fit in your current ship build is actually going to fit. So you can either strip down your entire ship and reconfigure basically everything about it, or you can guess that the engine you will eventually need in the f***ing future is going to fit into your ship build. Knowing this, you could, at this point, travel to each shipyard and inspect every single engine and write down the configurations one by one, but that would be beyond annoying. Or you could cross your fingers and hope for the best. If this seems bad enough, the shittiest part is, if you somehow guessed right for this one part, then you will have to do this entire process all over again for the next future part that you will or will not need. What if you plan to make a ship that has parts from 4 different vendors? I mean, can you imagine the headache? Again, you have no clue, because you can't see unique vendor parts that may or may not be better than what you currently have. So what are we supposed to do here, Todd? Make a bunch of ship shells that will then later salvage and waste money on and just pray everything we need from each vendor magically fits? Is anyone else flabbergasted at the way this was set up? Why not be able to purchase those parts from the vendor and then store them in your ship? You know, take them back to your landing pad, unload the cargo, and make your new ship.
76 was so much more fun in this game.
Or let us buy the blueprints.
Because it has all the mobs, and all the fights, and all the combat.
Or just have a quest in each major city that
and, you know, a good jetpack and all that stuff.
Really terrible game design supporting an otherwise very well-made feature. No matter what though, it does really suck that the balance of ship combats is really, really bad. Unless you rush to a top tier ship and spend all your skill points in starship upgrades, very hard difficulty is virtually impossible in Starfield. If we're being honest, Bethesda has always been quite horrible at adding different difficulty levels to their games, and at this point I'm surprised they haven't just scraped the difficulty slider altogether. Starfield is way too hard on the highest difficulty setting. If you try, you're at the mercy of simple math, overwhelming numbers, and aimbot. Just like the ground combat, the difficulty is again inflated through sheer hit points, not any unique mechanics or scenarios at all. And all the enemy ships essentially function the same, with the player getting bombarded by hit scan targeting and with no ability to use flares or counter missiles. Trying to boost or evade during those situations doesn't always work. The whole process gets a little bit better with the unlocked version, but by and large, the advanced difficulties in Starfield are just not balanced in any way. The Vanguard training ship simulation missions truly expose how busted and unfair very hard ship combat is early on. But even during story missions or normal pirate fights, it's just way too unfair unless you want to cheese enemies by kiting using superior range. I can in some way tolerate the bullet sponginess in ground combats because you typically have more space to move around. If you have good tactics, you might prevail. You could theoretically be level 15 and take on 10 plus level 25 ground enemies, but the second you get ambushed by 3 level 17 ships in space, you get washed in 10 seconds with absolutely no way to avoid it beyond praying your grav drive doesn't get destroyed before you can make the jump to hyperspace. and this in turn encourages players to spend their precious points in ship upgrades even though you're not even sure if they're going to help you or not. Especially because there are no mechanics to mitigate damage or avoid taking damage unless you're able to swing behind your target and shoot them in the back. But even if you manage that, you're typically being blasted from 3 other ships at the same time. And this imbalance sucks because if you're like me and like to play on the highest difficulty, you have to constantly change your difficulty levels when you get into a ship fight. And then once it's over, you have to go back into the menu and change it when you land on a planet. This isn't fun, especially in a game where you're already spending most of your playtime in menus and sitting through loading screens. It's just a pain in the ass, not to mention it's utterly immersion breaking and tension shattering. At the end of the Crimson Fleet questline, there's a section where you have to push back UC ship invaders, and within 15 seconds you get blown into 1,000 pieces every time you get close to the big ship. Even if you have the best possible ship, this section is nigh on impossible on very hard difficulty. And the only way I was able to finish it was to do some damage, run away to a different system, and then grab jump back 5 different times. And honestly, even then, I was barely able to finish it.
That guy's 16, and he's almost dead.
Starfield ship combat was better than I expected.
On that 14 Watcher.
Game of how can I cheese this fight, or how many ship parts am I carrying? Part 3. Story, characters, missions, and everything else. Now, seeing as how I wasn't...
I want to see him fight again because he's going to almost die again. It's weird because he's 16 and he should not have this trouble at all. It's weird. He must have pulled 2. No, he's fine. Never mind. He's fine. Why did it look like he almost lost this last one? It seems weird. I don't know. Just random, I guess. Maybe he aggroed too.
Elements would blow me away. Starfield's story has the player following a group called Constellation, who are on a quest to discover the nature of shiny floating objects called artifacts. It's your job to join the team.
I guess you can't gouge these machines. It's good to know.
I was expecting a few things here. An exciting introduction, great characters, and some compelling material to work through. Surprisingly, Starfield has a pretty boring introduction, which is really weird because historically, they've mostly done a good job in this department. So the game opens up from black, with the player riding down a mining shaft, where you meet a woman named Lynn and her team.
I don't know, 76's intro was really fucking weak, but I loved it. It was like 2 minutes from the bedroom wake up where you pick your face to the exit of the vault, and then there was just nothing else. You had a whole open world, and I loved it. 76 had such a good intro. All the other Bethesda intros sucked dick, including Starfield. But 76 was fine. Was totally reasonable. I did not mind it. I loved it. I like 76 a lot. I will not shrug with bad talk about 76. There is some problems with 76, a lot. But I mean, I think 76 is as good as WoW. I really do. I think it's more fun than WoW. And that's sad, but I do. I think 76 is a higher quality game with more content than WoW. You know, I'm not gonna die to this Watcher. The damage like stops sometimes. Look, I can't even do this last 3 damage. It's like weird. The damage will just stop sometimes. But whatever. I really shouldn't have to be able to use a potion for that, but I don't know. I was kind of distracted when I was fighting him. These things will actually kill me. That thing won't, but the 15s will.
Aggro.
Could do a lot of damage before they even reach you. It's awesome. I'm learning to as well. You can do more damage like ranged open than you can with a garrote most of the time. I think garrote's more of like a party thing. That is a priest. They are 16.
Aggro.
Wait, did I get another cloak? No. Oh, well.
Cave while mining rocks until you stumble on an artifact. That's essentially the beginning of the game. At this point, your character passes out, and you awake as one of the chosen
Aggro.
ones. So yes, it's another one of those games in which the player goes from an absolute nobody to the most important character in the game in about 5 minutes. Historically, not a terrible paradigm, if not cliche, but the thing about Starfield is that it's wrapped around a very slow, uneventful start, whereas other games set immersive stages. Skyrim had the dragon attack, and Fallout had the nuke. All 3 games essentially accomplish the same thing, narratively, yet only 2 games take the time to set the stage properly and deliver memorable set pieces. Starfield's intro is flat out boring. The player then moves on to meet Barretts and kill a bunch of enemies, and then is miraculously gifted an expensive starship because again the player is now the chosen one. We're then told that we have to travel to Crete and murder a bunch of space pirates before we can go to New Atlantis. And it's at this point that the player immediately then becomes accepted into Constellation, an impressive reward for a half a day's work. The whole thing is just so abrupt and has virtually no lead up, making the transition from broke cave diver to future savior of the world feel pretty damn cheap. As in just a few conversations, without learning anything about the character we're playing, and hardly anything about the people we talk to, we now get to depart on one of the most important missions humankind has ever ventured
No
on
XP.
since they left Earth. Not exactly the thorough story development.
Oh, I hit 37. That's why.
From here,
And I guess I dinged while I was AFK. I was like, I was all tabbed, yeah. Oh yeah, I dinged like 2K ago. I'm 37 now. Or no, yeah. I guess I dinged yesterday, didn't I? 36. I thought I was 36. I'm 37. I'm halfway. That's fucking awesome. I'm doing well with this BST. She'll get up. I love BST.
new hero, the player can either work through the main story, which isn't very long.
Yeah,
join
that
factions,
nasty
or complete
roar.
various side content. And if you're just gonna
I kind of want
examine the main
roar
story,
on
it's safe to
my...
say it's actually
Like, I kind of want to combine my different macros here, and I think I'm gonna. So, right now, I have 2 separate macros. One that does roar and razor fang, and one that sends fight and checks and all that. I think I wanna that's a good, yeah, like I wanna catch all macro that 6 the pet and either uses sick or runs roar if it's the tiger. And it's a weird modified macro. I don't want to lose this one, but I am gonna modify it. So I'm gonna make a copy. I'm gonna make a couple of copies actually, and I'm gonna do some macro surgery here. Initially, the pet does need to fight, and I do need to check to make sure I haven't pulled like an Ink Tough and just go bail or something, so I can be mostly AFK in the mob choices that I make. BST pet weight 1 is good, but I don't need it in the macro currently. I'm going to move it down currently, and I'm going to go steal from the roar macro. Yup. I think it's right. Fight, check, roar. Wait for razor fang, and I'm gonna try and 1-button macro this BST, just like WoW. I like the sick, but I'm gonna have to work with that first. It'll have to go last in line. Yeah, I'll go steal from one of the other copies, and then we'll go stick the other. We'll stick razor fang in on top of it after roar, and now I have a modified attack macro dot macro. I want Dia in this macro because it's helpful for me. Para is covered by the cat, and slow's too expensive and takes too long, but Dia is a good spell. And it's helpful. So there's the other one. It'll need to be sick. No, sick will be last. Otherwise, this will just run through, and then later on, I'll use the sick. And like, so even if I have a charmed pet, sick will fire off. It just won't do it. It won't do it for like 10 seconds, and that's fine. Waiting 10 seconds to sick is totally fine on an AFK player. So now, we go. What's left? It's the BST pet thing. Oops. Yeah. And we get a check on what charges are left. Paceline. That actually should be last, but no, the sick macro works well. I don't have so now while the paralyze is good, I don't like the slow. It's too expensive. But Dia and Silence are actually not too bad to run. And I don't even think it's weight 6. It's like weight 3 or something Dia's like weight 5. And then yeah, we can murder that macro too. I'm kind of in a place where like I don't need paralyzer slow. Slow is nice. It's nice to run slow. Like let's consider slow. I can't remember how much it is, but it's expensive. It's like what is slow? Slow is like, oh, I got shell rust. So I have to modify my buff macro. It has been 6 minutes since I burned my WoW cooldown, so I can go back to WoW now, and I will. But I want to see how much slow is. Slow is 15 mana. It's too much. And silence is 16. Frankly, I'd rather she burn 16 wastefully all the time on silence than slow. Slow is a good spell. It helps. Actually, slow is more effective than silence like half the time because only a few mobs actually cast spells, but the slow is good on every single mob. So honestly, it was but no, I just want to run. I know what I want. I want DN Silence. I'm going to run a modified dot macro. That's a coverall for both casters and normal mobs. And it's cheap in its execution, so I can run it without breaking my healing mana. And it covers the bases. If it's a caster like this asshole, my dot macro is gold. Now watch. Gotta let this one run, but now there's a whole bunch of auto stuff that the tiger's going to do. There's the roar. I don't have any hands on the keyboard. Razor Fang. Then I check, I think. No, I got a command error from the sick command because the macro ended. Now, yeah, Night Raider's mostly dead, which is good. It's a better macro. Then we run the dots, which is Dia is fast, right? Really fast. And then, yep, and then silence. And then we get on the mob. I'm going to reward this bestial or 2-houred cat. Oops. Because I don't want the cat to die. And I have pet food beta, which is really good. It's actually strong. To really heal him. Fuck yeah. Okay. And then we take another 5-minute break until the rewards back up and we heal this tiger for the other. I think I have like 22 minutes left on him before his powers go away. So we'll use him sparingly, but I want another heal on him before. Or no, let's use him now because I'm fairly up right now. We'll just move forward here. But I don't have to stick around and watch the fight though. Yep, and we'll just run the dots on him. He wasn't able to roar, but that's okay. Now let's go fight these watchers and get this out of the way. I need a lot more, like 12 more of these, and it's kind of annoying.
Actually not all that interesting, and there are a few reasons for it, at least for me.
My cooldowns are back up.
With essentially everything narrative in Starfield is the extremely dry presentation, particularly
I'm gonna kill this bird because I'm more scared of the bird than I am of the watchers, frankly. If he aggroes me at the wrong time, nice. If he aggroes me at the wrong time, it's really bad.
After all, role-playing games are based off of stories and people, and typically, the playtime is impacted heavily by interactions. Ergo, we read and listen to a lot of people talk. There's a lot of writing in Starfield, and just for the
this man is very intelligent.
And when the writing isn't great, the player is required to be inherently interested.
My nitpicks were one inconsequential things. His actual execution is very good.
When you make a game like this, you typically have
Aggro.
three choices. Pre-made cutscenes with a directed camera. This is what The Witcher does, alongside other third-person games. Live scripted conversations with a directed camera. This is what Cyberpunk does well, and a lot of other first-person games try to do well. What's really interesting about this setup is that the conversation extends far beyond the person talking.
Why do you keep talking about
There's a camera.
Cyberpunk, man? You keep almost losing me, though. Like, I don't know, like, you're really using Cyberpunk way too much as a comparison to Starfield when they're such separate fucking games that they're not even in the same arena. Like, I wouldn't even call one a shooter, really.
Aggro.
You know? Like, I would not call Cyberpunk a shooter at all. Oh, no. Gotta pop. Get the evasion. It's too scary. I'm not dying to this. Yeah, I'd rather just wait out the cooldown again. I don't care. I'm not dying to this. I'm not dying to this. Yeah. Unreasonable how much damage he did through the evasion. But he is 3 levels higher, though. How's this guy doing? He's kind of low. Never mind, he's got it. So... I could keep going, but I burned an evasion. I could probably kill that 14 without an evasion. I wasn't struggling with the level 14 ones. So let's go try and pull him, see what I can get. I'm learning to kind of like keep them where you pull them, kind of. Because, yeah, this guy doesn't have it. Yeah, and that's enough progress. Dunder Mifflin, are you serious? What a dumb name for a fucking guild, what? Fucking boomers in their office. I love The Office, I've seen it like 25 times, but... Like, trust me, I love The Office, it's probably more than most people do. But I don't need to name my guild after it. I should put 12s in there in between, I guess. Because it's all growth. It's all XP in the end. I don't know. Improved gouge was good, but then I realized that a whole bunch of the mobs can't even be gouged. Which kind of makes it sort of a weak, sort of more PvP ability. I like gouge, though. It makes me feel like I have the control to live. And I want a longer one so I can bandage, like, right in the middle of combat. There's a smuggler standing right there, and I need him, I think. No, I need bandanas. But that's fine. You know, he's a chance at a bandana. There's a level 14. He respawned. I'll take him. He's good. Oh, the hunter took it. The mage took the other one. Alright, let's go for the smuggler, then. I feel like there's Link here. Oh, yeah. If he runs, that's death. So just, yeah, let's not do that. There's no need. I'm like, now I'm just competing for pulls at this point. I shouldn't even really be here. This is too high for me. I have almost died twice already. I'm gonna go back to the Defias Cave where it's a little bit more equal. 15s are just a little too much, you know. But I got some progress on the quest. I got most of it done. When these guys are done range hogging all these mobs, I'll come back and get a few more level 14 kills. Getting the Defias would be a good turn-in. It's good XP. It'll get me to like 65 or 70%. Then I've got a whole... Oh, I've got some turn-ins now, actually. Yeah. Got to do the pocket watch, which is there, I think. That's that one, I think. Where is it? It's like, yeah, that guy. No, that's not it. Oh, I need oats. I do. Where is the one about The pocket watch. I don't remember where that one is. It'll show up when all this other stuff goes away. I need to kill Murlocs, but I'm not high enough. People are pulling here too. Annoying.
Can be the most immersive yet labor-intensive.
My luck is a little bad here. Like I could journey west. I'm not that far. Could work on Null Pause, but that's kind of a quest that's 2 levels higher. I could do a bunch of Stormwind footwork here while these guys like sort of get their quests done and get out of my way. Because I am moving slow. Ooh. I'm going to get popped doing this. Hurry up. Go, 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 go. Ooh, 2 silver bars. That's money.
Aggro.
376 each. That's like 10 silver or something. 7 silver. 8 silver. God damn it. Get out of the pop range. Whatever. I feel like the swords I'm using are a little too low level now. And that's the thing. So when I hit 13, I'll go look for swords. I mean, I am killing them so quick, it doesn't really matter. I'm not going in that cave, and these guys like killed the entire fucking outer spawn and then disappeared. So I'm just gonna go fucking see if I can get like another bit of watcher progress. Cycle between the cave and the watchers.
With a very high payoff. Again, keep the player interested. We're playing a game here. We're not reading a book. The third choice is to do what Starfield does, which is static dialogue between 2 people with a non-moving camera. Video games have been doing this for a very long time, and it wouldn't be a stretch to call it.
My quartz isn't on for some. Oh no, quartz is on. I'm just not seeing it right.
The person you're talking to super big on the screen and everything else.
I kind of want to unlock quartz and move it from here over to here.
No moving pieces speaks to a cost-saving mechanism. And if I can be frank, this
that's the
really
global.
isn't a conversation.
Yeah, just the global.
This is a character staring at you speaking words. Conversations.
My cooldowns up, yeah, cooldowns are all up, which is good. So
here's an interesting, engaging conversation in Cyberpunk 2077.
A defeat.
That killing these 15s does not pay the XP that it should. It should be like 2% because these things are like 3 levels higher than me, but it's not even that. It's the exact same XP it would be if they were the same level as me, and it annoys me. That's Blizzard math for you. 3 levels higher, but it pays the same. You know, fucking Blizzard math is so dumb.
Aggro.
Ah. This boar is hurting me for some reason. I guess he's the same level as me. I didn't know Cyberpunk had gambling.
Interrupted something when I walked up.
Do not worry yourself about this.
Oh, Cam. V is just being cordial.
Aggro.
N'est-ce pas, V? You weren't
I don't like this character's depiction. It's Eurotrash on purpose. I dislike it.
Got a sinking feeling about this.
Monaco, they're like depicting Monaco, I guess.
Ah, you got me. On to you big time. But in my defense, you guys stand out, even in a crowd like this one.
Oh, really? Listening to conversations of strangers can be
She's got a gravelly voice.
dangerous. Sometimes
Aggro.
you can hear more than you can handle.
I'm just gonna run it now. He hurt like already.
MIA for now. Can't wait for him. Gotta do both scans on your own.
This isn't going well.
We were discussing local politics, specifically our host, Monsieur Kurt Hansen. Big fish selling big guns for big money. Yet here you have celebrities,
It went okay.
politicians, even the chief of police. So I was thinking,
Well, I'm sorry, dude. You have lost me. I'm trying to watch a Starfield video, and you keep putting in like 10-minute fucking sessions in this hour-and-a-half video of you lost me here. Like, you did way too much cyberpunk in your... Like, I really like this. I'm going to just tell him, like, a bit of constructive criticism. I love this vid. Great stuff. Very intellectual and good. But you put long periods of cyberpunk in this Starfield video. And by part 3 at 58 minutes, I had to bail because the gambling scene felt like 10 minutes long. Don't know why you would ever compare Cyberpunk to Starfield. Very separate games. Doing very different things in very different styles. Not even the same genre, really. I would not really call... I don't know. Too much cyberpunk. Remember, Cyberpunk was rated below a 4 on Metacritic for 3 years. Some of us still rated a 4. Just word to the wise. Cyberpunk was off topic. Off in Africa. And far too much of it. It hurt the video. I don't usually do this kind of criticism. Loved it anyways. Yeah. And I bailed. I told him exactly when I did it too. I was like, great video, I used you, but I mean, yeah, like, you know. So yeah, we never did finish that other streamer video. I just wanted to move forward here. It's a shame the Starfield doesn't have better mods yet. What's going on in WoW? I'm like out in a safe area AFK, but I mean there's nothing here. 15, 14, there's what I'm looking for. Pull one of those.
Aggro.
Too much cyberpunk, man. Like I said it how I meant it. People forget, but Cyberpunk sat below a 4 on Metacritic for 3 solid fucking years. Sure, it's got a redemption arc, but it sat below a 4 on both user and industry for 3 solid years. And I know it's all the rage to love Cyberpunk suddenly now for some fucking reason, like it's any different, but it's not. And like, you know, and all that. And I know you like Cyberpunk. You want to compare Starfield to Cyberpunk for some reason. But really, they're very separate games, and I didn't change my opinion of Cyberpunk, even though I did rebuy it and then got a refund. I rebought it like 3 weeks before the expansion hit, so that like I could make sure I wasn't missing out. I had fear of missing out. I went back and played it again for I think 12 hours, and I was like, no, still a bad game. And you're never gonna change my mind this time now. After buying it twice and getting a refund twice, I'm never touching Cyberpunk again. And that otherwise really good Starfield video that had a lot more cogent points than most people had was marred by the 20 minutes of Cyberpunk content that he put in that fucking Starfield video.
Aggro.
And so, otherwise, to me, it was like a perfect video. It's kind of a shame, you know? I mean, I didn't come there for Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk is one of the worst games of all time. It had one of the worst ratings of all time. You don't get that by mistake or some kind of, you know, accident or misjudgment or something. You don't get one of the worst rated games of all time by accident. And nothing really changed. I mean, it got more content, and our tech is better now, so the game runs better. So yeah, time makes fool of Cyberpunk of us all. But I mean, you know, sure, that's an argument for all video games. Is yeah, the tech's getting better, and each year it's easier to run really intensive games. But that's an argument for all video games that have two graphics way more than they should. And like, you know, and I'm sorry, but you marred an otherwise perfectly good like Starfield video, which is kind of rare. I watched a lot of fucking Starfield videos, but not that many of them were good. His was good, except for the 20 minutes of Cyberpunk departure. That's all I have to say about that. I don't normally bail on videos early. But when it becomes to start to feel like it's a commercial for a different game that I actually don't like, you lost me. I'm sorry. I don't usually get lost. It's not normal for me. But he did. He lost me like pretty far into.
His skill level falls so drastically.
Like an hour in. So he got most of what he wanted out of me, I think, which is good. But I didn't make it to the end, which is frankly sad because he just kept fucking talking about Cyberpunk. Yeah, what's Cyberpunk now? It's better now, right? But I don't know why. And Metacritic isn't the best, you know, weight, but I trust it. Yeah, I don't believe this. This game is not better now. Yeah, I waited 3 years, hoped it would worth time, it would be game was hoped for. Nope. Excellent game. Nope. Yep. Messages against the extreme expectations. Blah, blah, blah. Sword and dialogues of the freedom concerning gameplay. What do you mean freedom concerning gameplay? There is no freedom concerning gameplay in Cyberpunk. So much of it is MSQ that absolutely will not let you do anything else. What are you talking about? There was almost no freedom in Cyberpunk. You start out and they're like, corporal mission with your partner for this, go steal a car or whatever. And sure, they open up the city. And I think at that point you can go off on a combat tip if you want, which I did. But you still have to do the MSQ. It was extremely linear. It was more linear than Grand Theft Auto. I mean, Grand Theft Auto is fairly linear, you know? I mean, you can get lost in it for thousands of hours, but you not when it comes to the MSQ. You can't, like, you know, the MSQ is how you move the game forward. And yeah, like, I'm sorry, but yeah, like, I don't know, man. Yeah, the game was not fixed. The performance, while it's better, is not fixed, and it's still too intensive. And it's like the game itself is boring. This game had a great story, sure, but it's boring. The game was boring. It was not even as fun as Grand Theft Auto 5, and I didn't even like Grand Theft Auto 5 that much. You know, of all these games, let's toss RDR2 in there as well. I thought RDR2 was far superior to both these games. Honestly, I think like both of them were way overhyped. Like Grand Theft Auto 5 was the weakest of all of them in my opinion. Even 4 I thought was better, kind of. It's weird because 4 had all these technological limitations that 5 didn't. But I still liked 4 more than 5. That's weird. You know, and now they're saying Cyberpunk's a good game. I don't fucking believe it. It's still sitting 61 on Xbox One, 57 on PS4. And the PC fanboys like Cyberpunk, of course. And the Xbox Series X seems to play it well. And the PS5 plays it well. But yeah, the older generation was pissed off by this still. The PC is good, but it's like, I don't know, man. I didn't like how linear the fucking brain dives were. They force you to do inane combat a lot. There was no real gameplay loop behind the cops. There was not even like Grand Theft Auto. There wasn't. There's not. I mean, there just wasn't. The cops weren't really a part of the game. Not really. And like, you know, and like, I'm sorry, it was a weak title to me. It was weak. The combat's great, sure. For what, though? The RPG had no redeeming qualities in terms of moving forward. You aren't like, oh, cool, I have a point to spend or anything. It was like, for what? You just drive around to the next checkpoint, kill the guys at the Far Cry checkpoint, like, talk to somebody in some cutscene, and it's the same old Grand Theft Auto. It didn't have any freedom. I mean, you could go run around the city like Grand Theft Auto, yeah. Why is this video on this? It's so weird. There's like this gun nut video on the Metacritic for Cyberpunk. Fucking weird choice that. Some of the stylistic choices that CDPR made.
Well, as proven by Myth and Ninja, being the best Fortnite players in the world.
I'm gonna get off it. I don't like okay. One of my favorite videos is actually a teardown video of Cyberpunk, where the kid just tears into them. And I don't blame them. So watch, there's going to be a new generation of these videos. Cyberpunk still sucks, you know? Because it does. It's like, why it's still bad, you know?
2077, 3 years later. So Cyberpunk is popular again.
Why?
Of the Phantom Liberty DLC.
Yeah, I remember now, but still.
The reviews are incredibly positive for the most part, but let's
why?
I do feel there is something huge.
No, the game looks good and it's fun to play, but it's got no loop. It's got no core. There's nothing there. There's kill things, get XP, which usually is enough for me, frankly. But it was boring in this. You can't really go on some genocidal war with the cops all the time. Otherwise, you're constrained to the MSQ. So it's like, frankly, the gameplay loop in Grand Theft Auto is kind of dead now.
Which needs to be addressed.
Like, it's dead now. It's boring. Like, honestly, I thought like Crackdown had a better possibility of a gameplay loop than Grand Theft Auto 5 did. Crackdown 3 had more of a real core to it than Grand Theft Auto 5 did, because there's no compelling loop in the background beyond just clearing boring quests over and over and over again. It's like a bad single player MMO. And I wasn't compelled by a lot of these stories like some gamers are, I must admit. I've got a weakness when it comes to their stories. I'm a lit major. I was raised on more classical literature and stuff than this. I like deeper stories like Tolstoy or Dostoevsky or like Franz Kafka or something with a bit of depth. Even like really dry Tolkien. It's something, but these like crime tales are always like point A to point B, go steal something, go kill someone, or meet some new character that wants you to go steal something or kill someone. Get in a car chase, get in a helicopter chase. You know, it's the repetition. It was good, but past Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, they had lost it. They've lost whatever was fun about it. I don't think it was fun in 4. I don't think it was fun in 5. I don't think it was fun in any of the Saints Row games. I don't think it's fun in RDR2 even that much. RDR2 was good, like really good, solid game. But I don't think it's that fun. It's not that fun of a game when it comes down to it. Because it's always like, okay, let's do a mission. It's going to take like 35 minutes to take me from point A to point B on a horse to kill the same group of Far Cry Outpost dudes like Grand Theft Auto always does. It's atrociously easy, and it's realistic and beautiful. Both games, but those loops are not compelling.
We did take a look at all the changes made in the 2.0 free update.
Yeah, like go to the Far Cry outposts and clear the RPG mobs with the cool RPG system, and the combat was good. But I mean, like it's still not like it's still a hollow game. The core compelling gameplay loops do not drive you forward towards the burning end. You know.
Video, which I would recommend watching after this one. But let's dive into the facts and whether this game is truly worth playing or not, whilst addressing...
I struggle with it. I have an innate bias to CDPR because I've returned every game I've ever bought from them. And I despair about it a little bit. Like, it's not like I wanted to. I really loathe returning games, kind of. I do it a lot, but I don't like doing it. And I really resented how I ended up returning Witcher 1, Witcher 2, Witcher 3, and fucking Cyberpunk twice. And at that point, I'm like, I'm sorry. I know the industry wants to hype them and loves them to death. But if I can't find a title they've ever made that I can stand... I'm just gonna come to my reality, which is that I didn't like this company or anything they've ever done. And it's so tragic because I think they're a good company somewhere in there, but it's never been evidenced in any of the games that I played that they made. You know?
Just before we jump in, here is a quick word from...
I thought the combat in Witcher 3 was so bad. The Valheim combat is better than Witcher 3.
If you would like to own a RGH Xbox 360 that allows you to do the impossible, for example, play emulators such as SNES, PlayStation 1, Sega Mega Drive, Nintendo DS, Game Boy, and the list goes on, mess around with friends in online lobbies, and so much more, just click the link below.
They forget about these huge missing parts. They forget about them. They're like, oh, it's such a spectacle that I just got kind of sucked in. I ended up skipping the cutscenes, so it wasn't very time intensive or whatever. This is something I'm convinced about them, is I think a bunch of them skip the cutscenes entirely. So it's not that long of an investment for them. They're trying to beat it on in the weekend or whatever. They're 9-to-5ers and they're 40 and they're old and they have jobs and kids probably, and they're trying to clear the game in like 2 days. So they skip all those cutscenes and everything, which is fine. Got no issue with that. I do it myself. But I don't know what's left. I don't know what's left after the cutscenes. Driving around in a car from point A to point B, Far Cry Outpost, is not good gameplay loop. It wasn't good in Far Cry. It's not good in this.
Leading supplier of RGH Xboxes, the Console Warehouse, and browse their incredible collection and find out more on what they can do. This game...
Wow, so they've got like fuck ton of consoles just sitting there.
...came out 3 years ago, and it released an app...
Yup, and you forget about this stuff, but it was way worse than Grand Theft Auto with a lot of it.
...and was a huge letdown, as we all know. I don't want to dwell on this too much, because we all know...
It looked good, though. I gotta say, it's like one of the most beautiful games ever made. I got no issue with that part of it.
About that, but these 9 out of 10 reviews...
I don't like their car styles.
...that have recently...
Those cars did not look good to me.
...come out, seem to have missed...
none of these cars look good to me.
...where the game released...
Like, how did Grand Theft Auto cars from fucking San Andreas look better than these pieces of crap?
3 years ago, and only now, it's becoming something...
Like, it's supposed to look futuristic and boxy and all that, but I'm sorry, do we all drive crappy, boxy Russian cars now? I mean, I'm sorry, that car looks like a piece of crap to me. That car looks like a piece of crap. Cars look like crap in this game. I'm sorry, but they did. The bike looks acceptable.
Playing 3 years. It's taken this.
That car looks like utter shit to me. I'm sorry, but it does. Like, I wouldn't drive it in real life.
Long to update a game to a standard that 60% of players are satisfied with. No, I'll be honest, throwing out 60%.
This part was great. I had no problem with the interaction with the crowd. I thought the crowd was great. Really well done.
It's just an education.
Yeah, it was funny. There was very funny interactions. Yeah, the people and the NPCs, a lot of the AI was so good. The AI did the crowd pretty well, I gotta say. That part of it was amazing.
That or less. But if you do
I think now fucking 40 hours into Cyberpunk, and I quit after the mission on my thing where Jackie dies, I think. And I played through drunk and skipped all the cutscenes. And I don't remember. I remember Johnny Silverhand a bit. And like I remember like kind of the boring parts of it. But like there was this point where I tuned out on the story past when Jackie died. And I don't remember at all. I'm talking at all. I don't remember if he lives or dies or what. That story was not compelling to me at all. I have no clue what the fuck happened in it at all. I don't remember. And that's how you know it's bad. If it didn't stick out to you, like, okay, I remember every minute of Disco Elysium. I remember every bit of what I experienced in it. You know, that was one of the last times I thought a story in a game was good. But I remember the cafe in Inside Out. I remember all of the game Inside and Out. But I can't remember Cyberpunk at all. And that's my argument about how it is bad. If you can't remember it, it's bad.
There is still a lot of players who are disappointed even now.
It didn't have the value.
State of the game, despite all of these.
No, and honestly, their issues are technical, I think. Mine are actually the game. I don't have a lot of technical complaints about this game. I think it played well. I think it had good frame rate. I think it had good graphics. Didn't care about that part of it at all. All the fanboy complaints weren't something I shared any relation to. Even back when it was like day one, I played it day one, and I had no complaints about its performance on my 3060 Ti. I did fine, no problem at all. But the game sucked. The game wasn't memorable. I don't remember the storyline at all. I remember liking the Keanu Reeves, but I don't remember what happened to Johnny Silverhand at all. Sure, I was like kind of high and drunk when I played Cyberpunk, and I was younger and a little bit more distracted. I had a girlfriend and stuff. But like, I don't remember. And that's always like a really telling tale for me.
Reviews.
Like, if it's good, I remember, you know? Like, I have no clue what the storyline, and I'm really trying to remember. I know that the corpos are signed up with the army or something like that, and the FBI is after them, or whatever it is, the Fibbies or whatever, and like, and there's some connection with Silverhand, but I don't remember any more than that. The only plot point that I remember at all was how shocked I was when they actually killed Jackie. That was it. That's the only part of the storyline I remember at all. I'm trying really hard. Now I can tell you the entire storyline and all the theory behind Disco Elysium or Skyrim or any Bethesda game or 76 or even, you know, a lot of the MMOs out there and all this, but I don't remember Cyberpunk at all. And I guess I only did play it for like, I think 40 hours all in all. But the brain dances were boring. The forced stuff with the crime scene investigation was boring. It wasn't even good like the way it was in I played Detroit Become Human recently because an old friend of mine bought it for me, and I did not think that like the scenes in Cyberpunk were even as compelling as they were in Detroit, a game that had come out 5 years previously. And yeah, sure, I guess it's becoming unfair to compare these modern games to the previous generation, but I don't know why that would be. Like, apparently it's unfair now to sort of compare Cyberpunk to an older generation game, such as, what did I just say? I lost the name of the game in my head. Detroit Become Human, right? But the reason why is I played Detroit Become Human, and I remember how really derivative the forced brain dives and all the crime scene investigation was in this weird Grand Theft Auto game. They wanted you to be this detective, but you're this corpo street rat, which makes no fucking sense. It's like, or whatever it is you end up picking. It makes no sense that you know, that you're doing all this crime scene investigation for hackers and the government and all this, but you're this like weird rebel. You know, you would never work with the government. I don't think the character V would never work with the government or any of those corpo assholes. I don't think. Not really. Not in the real world. A real V would never be working with those people that she was working with. You know, because it's just going to lead you down some greedy death pit where they get you killed trying to steal some car, or fucked up with the fibbies, or get your partner wasted. I remember Jackie died. I don't remember how. At all. I know Jackie died. I really don't remember how, because it just wasn't well written enough. I'm sorry, it was not well written enough, and I'm done. I guess I came to bully Cyberpunk, but to me it's like kind of tragic. I really thought this might be the game that would bring me to CDPR as fucking stable or whatever, but no, I returned it twice, just like all their other games. And it's weird because in the background they're all like, this is the greatest company ever, and Witcher 3 is the greatest RPG ever made, and all this crap. And I'm like, man, miss me with that shit, because they did miss me with that shit. I do not agree. Not at all. I felt Morrowind was superior to Witcher 3. I'm sorry.
So why is there so many more players now, all of a sudden, enjoying...
They're different games, but, you know...
But I think the main reason is the big majority of players who are now enjoying the game have only just bought it, and weren't one of the suckers like me who pre-ordered this game.
Yeah, and went through all the rigmarole and the 2 returns. Yeah, like okay, am I not allowed to have my bias because I returned the game twice or whatever? Am I supposed to just forget that I got dicked twice or whatever? No.
Concerned about is, what if this becomes the standard for games releasing in the future? So you see some gameplay trailers and are convinced through
the second time I was so unhappy that I was returning it that I literally went and bought a bottle of vodka, if I recall. And I was like, I'm going to get really drunk and I'm going to return this game that I only played for an hour and 45 minutes. And it's disturbing me so much that I can't seem to find some kind of redeeming quality in this game that everybody seems to love. And I had to get drunk to bite the bullet to return it to Steam. Because I was like, it's really bothering me that I can't see what everybody else sees. I just could not see it. I was like, I'm sorry, this game is not good. It's boring, you know.
Absolutely amazing. You pay your damn $70 to pre-order it. It comes out and it sucks a dog's cock. But don't worry, this game was released with the future in mind. Expect yearly updates.
Yeah.
Eventually achieve everything.
So eventually it'll be a game, I guess, is their whole reasoning with that. Eventually it'll be a game worth buying. Kind of fucking marketing is that? If I made an airplane and I just sort of built it after I had sold it to you, how happy would you be? And it was just like, hey, it'll fly pretty well soon. You know, in 5 years, it'll fly pretty well soon when the tech catches up or whatever. No, just don't be so ambitious then.
Now, give me your damn money first, and you'll get the game you want in a few years' time. Is that how it's going to be then, is it? What happens?
His complaints I don't share, though.
Products? It absolutely sucks. I also think...
I want reasons. You're just saying it sucks.
The fact this game
I cited a bunch of them.
now costs half the price when...
You know, okay, and it's just because I've been bitching about it way too much, but I'm going to say this too as well. Since jetpacks seem to be on my fucking mind or whatever, does Cyberpunk have a jetpack? Cause I'm just kind of curious. Does Cyberpunk have a jetpack? Because I'm just wondering. You can get a leg upgrade for hover jets. I'm not sure if you can fly up, but I'm guessing you can maintain airtime with them. So flight was something that's been in Grand Theft Auto since Grand Theft Auto 3. If you could fly the dodo like me. You guys ever seen somebody fly the dodo? GTA 3, flying the dodo. So the dodo was the only plane in Final Fantasy, or sorry, Grand Theft Auto 3 was this piece of shit with fucked up backwards tank controls that you fly after taking it off from the airport and catching 5 stars and stealing it from the airport at the Francis International Airport. So now flight was possible, but it was like flying a drunk man. Literally, it was like flying a drunk man around because the game did what it wanted. The plane would go whir or like whir, and you couldn't stop it. You could kind of balance it. And so, and this is how they got around actually adding flight to Grand Theft Auto 3. They couldn't do it with the PS2's restrictions and all this without destroying the RAM or whatever the fuck. And so they made flight possible to show the world that it could be done in this massive 3D game, right? And without this, we never would have had. Well, I guess World of Warcraft was the other game that had done this, right? And a couple of others. City of Heroes had it. There's a few that did manage full flight, but so even the takeoff is fucking terrifying. You can definitely nose plant on the takeoff if you haven't done it 50 times before, because the like I said, the plane does what it wants. Right from the get-go, like as you accelerate, it immediately starts trying to take you off towards the building on the right side of you. It's a design scheme, a control scheme designed around crashing the plane on purpose is what I'm getting at here. And so in a game that have flight, since Grand Theft Auto 3, and this is what, then after that was Vice City, after that was San Andreas, after that was 4, after that was 5, right? We've had 5 Grand Theft Auto games with full flight of some variation. In 3 it was restricted, but in all the other ones it wasn't, right? So by the time we reach Cyberpunk, we Google a question, right? We say, does Cyberpunk have full flight? No. No airplanes, no flying cars. That sound like the future to you? Or does it sound like backtracking below Grand Theft Auto 3 where you don't even have flight at all? Even Grand Theft Auto 3 had flight. Here's the proof of it. And so I'm sorry, but like, you know, I think of like, why would I'd rather play Grand Theft Auto 3 than Cyberpunk. Like, look at the wings on this plane. Do you see how did you see how it stalled? Yep. Oh, nice. It didn't detonate on impact, but it will from a certain height. So he was very lucky there. And you see how it just stalled on him? It's very funny to watch somebody fly the dodo. It's actually very comical. Because the plane does what it wants. At any given time. And so mastery of Grand Theft Auto 3 meant living through the 5 stars long enough to steal the dodo. Getting it off the ground so many times that you learned how to fly it. Which was kind of like learning how to fly in real life, too. And it was like that deep. And then managing to keep it in the air for longer than like 2.5 minutes or something like that. And that's what is considered Grand Theft Auto 3 mastery. It's the height of Grand Theft Auto 3 skill. And if you didn't fly the dodo, you're not a Grand Theft Auto player. This is the remake, which seems like they've got an expanded radio, which I didn't know they had. It looks a lot better, the remake, the remaster. So there's the dodo right now. It's actively fighting him. You see it? It's actively trying to nose plant him at the moment. Sometimes it'll try to take him into the air. Sometimes it'll hard bank you and just crash you like that. Sometimes this is the funniest thing. Oh, I missed what number 2 said. I'm sorry. I hated this, right? I hated this. Yeah, it was very funny. It was. I was like Reagan, this was stress. Yeah, it stresses you out. See, here's a real OG gamer if they know about this. Yeah, there's a real player. Yeah. So, like, you had to perform experiments with it. Like, where in the city can you take off with it and still have a chance of staying in the air? It was like that restricted. They really didn't want you flying around this city because, in my estimation, I'll tell you what my estimation of it was. It fried the heat sinks on PS2s, this game, right? So I really feel that they restricted flight because they felt that it would melt your PS2. The kind of how Rust was on low RAM on my computer last year when I didn't have 64 gigabytes of RAM, and I would fly around with Zelly on the mini heli, and like or like Steph or whatever, and like my shit would crash and crash and crash and crash and drop frames and all that, right? Imagine that on a PS2. And this is why the dodo was so retarded. And I don't use that word very often. But I mean, the dodo isn't a thing. It's not a real person. I can offend it if I want to. I can call the dodo retarded because it was intentionally a retarded gameplay scheme. It was designed to make you faceplant and lose. So he's also teaching people how to do it by typing, which is kind of funny. Because it was like one of the harder control schemes of all time. It was very difficult. But it was full flight. So you could go from the airport to your hideout in, I don't know, 90 seconds or whatever it was, if you could actually get some altitude, which we did. We got good at it. And, you know, for some reason, that journey being that fast and not 10 minutes of riding in a car meant something to us, like a lot to us. The other height of the Grand Theft Auto skill tree, or I'm sorry, skill ceiling, was even higher than the dodo, which was finishing the ambulance missions, which was like, I think 90 minutes straight of just perfect driving. You couldn't hit anything. You couldn't kill anyone. You couldn't run anybody over. You couldn't be late. You couldn't misnavigate. You couldn't not consult the map and not do it perfectly. And for 90 minutes, you pick up patients and take them to the hospital. The hospital parking lot itself was a nightmare of pedestrians designed to make you mauled out and have a psychotic fucking like autistic mental breakdown, because every time on every ambulance pickup, and we'll pull this next, right? On every ambulance pickup, you also had like, you know, like 35 pedestrians in the fucking hospital parking lot. So you would be barreling because they would give you 55 seconds to get some douchebag from the Taco Bell to the, like, for eating too much Taco Bell or whatever, to get to the fucking hospital. And you know, you pick them up from the Taco Bell hotel of NPC madness, kind of like they were making fun of, they really liked Crazy Taxi, right? So they put Crazy Taxi in their game, and their game was better than Crazy Taxi. The mini game and the mini ambulance game and Grand Theft Auto 3 and all the other Grand Theft Autos is far superior to full games like Crazy Taxi, because there's all that Grand Theft Auto world that makes it meaty, right? So the other, I don't know, 150-hour possible grind was the failing repeatedly, your entire crew passing a controller around, trying to completely completionist Grand Theft Auto 3 and 4. 3 and Vice City and San Andreas and 4, not 5. 3 and San Andreas and to me the 4 good Grand Theft Auto games were all in the Xbox 360 era, from PS2 to Xbox 360 era. By 5, they had already co-opted it far too badly, and it's just not as quality as the originals were, not even the music. And so yeah, so the ambulance missions were one of the more frustrating things I can think of in gaming, because it was like its own version of a sandbox nightmare. You could not make an error. It was a version of a roguelike. The Grand Theft Auto 3 ambulance perfect, right? And you're gonna see what I'm talking about here. The paramedic guy for playing Doctor Trophy, which is its own nightmare. Complete paramedic level 12. Locate, pick up, and deliver patients to the hospital within a time limit. To achieve 100% in GTA 3 and unlock the trophy, you must complete 12 levels in a row. Now, this is extremely difficult because the game is designed around throwing pedestrians in front of you when you can't handle it. So, you know this kind of shit that kills people in WoW Hardcore? This was real. Hyperlinks and stuff like that were really, really prevalent or relevant in Grand Theft Auto 3, the paramedic missions. Because it was just designed like WoW Hardcore to steal your quarters and hyperlink spawn you and shit. It just wasn't something you could successfully do the first time. It just wasn't like that. It took many, many, many attempts for everybody in the world, I believe. And finally, people did come around. My entire crew, one of our bragging points is all of us did this for all of the Grand Theft Auto games. And once we did it in 3, we could do it in all the other ones. So notice how he plays. He doesn't hit a wall. He doesn't hit a pedestrian. He doesn't break laws, technically, because that will definitely get the pigs. He won't even take any damage on the car beyond a single dent on the hood or any of that. Like, he can technically slam the brakes, and if the car is full stopped and a car hits him, the game does not fail the mission. But if you hit something, the mission is over. So notice he will not make a mistake for the full... Now, he's editing to keep it down to 6 minutes, but it's actually like a 90-minute run. $78 missions. 78 pickups. So he's showing the end of it, and how really nightmarish this roguelike fucking grind actually was. And it was daunting for its time. 5 doesn't have anything like this. Not even close. Well, 5 has the ambulance missions, of course, but it's not the nightmare that this was. This is one of the greater achievements in gamehood, in my opinion. Because to master it was days and days and days. More focused than an MMO. You know, it was monumental. Yeah. So notice, can't hit a wall. Can't hit a car. Can't stop. Can't get out of the ambulance. Can't let those guys deject you, or it's over. It's over. Then it's just over. Can't let cops eject you. Can't get cops. It's over if you get a star. Now, stuff will happen like you can hit things, but if you have 78 pickups, if you hit many things, you will lose the ambulance. So you can hit things, but I mean, really, if you're playing the right way, you don't. Because by the time you've done 78 pickups, the likelihood that you haven't been hit by a high-speed car is basically zero. So when a cop that's chasing some other car inevitably fucking plows into you and does like 40% of your car's your ambulance's damage or whatever, this is just going to happen. It happens. Maybe you might dodge it if you're perfect, but I don't believe so. I think you're going to get hit by a high-speed cop car or another high-speed driver. It just happens. Taxis will run corners and stuff like this when they're scared, and when you're picking up people, it scares them, so they drive off super fast and they plow into you. So hitting things isn't really like very acceptable, because that puts your run at such a crazy risk that, you know, yeah, the ambulances are easily damaged. You can only hit like things 5 or 6 times before this thing is basically smoking, and one hit from full-blown explosion and killing you. So you can't use the pain spray. That will leave the ambulance mission. So there's no repairs. And so you must drive perfectly for 90 minutes to clear 78. It's like about a minute or two each patient. There's like 80 patients or something, so it's like 90 if you're successful, because you have to clear. It has a time limit, and each one's really mean too. The time limits are really mean. They're like 50 seconds to go 16 blocks or something. Come hell or high water, you have to go the 16 blocks. The timer isn't going to be nice. You know, you don't get to stack up 10 minutes on a run or anything like that. You only have about 50 seconds each run. So, yep. So you begin to get an idea of how bad this really was. It was... And so see all the pedestrians standing around the exit for the drop-off. It's just designed to make you fail. And they're always random. You cannot count on them acting a certain way. Sometimes they run, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they run under you. Oh! Now he nicked the guy and did no damage to the ambulance, but did not cause a murder or catch a star, or it's over. Because the cop car chasing you will do damage to your ambulance that you cannot sustain. So, and running from the cop long enough to get rid of them, it will fail the ambulance mission. So perfection was needed here. It just wasn't like it wasn't a bargain that you can make with the game to get through the easy parts of it or something like that. Perfection was required here, and it's the only time I can remember it being required ever in a game. But you couldn't mess up, not really. It was too thin of a margin. That hurt. Now, okay. God damn it, that sound makes me nervous. Fucking pig moving around. Makes me think there's like a mob on top of me. Hardcore is so stressful sometimes. It's not stressful. It's just like when you can't pay attention to it, it stresses you out. You're like, why do I hear footsteps on top of my character? What if it's a watcher, you know? Or even worse, like a cyclone, you know? And then you're just dead because it's a level 19, right? So you get fucking super paranoid. But you don't want to stop what you're doing because that makes you a bad hardcore player. If you didn't feel safe, you shouldn't have alt-tabbed, you know? I mean, yeah, rather lower if I could get it. I wish Garrote was level 10.
Aggro.
You can't Garrote these anyways. Or Garrett. Is it Garrett? I think it's Garrett. I'm gonna go pronounce that word next. I'm sick of pronouncing words wrong. Okay, so... what are we looking at here? Yeah, he's killing me, but not fast enough. Okay, and the tiger's good. The roar's up because he didn't use it or something. I don't know. Or no, just the fight lasted like pretty long. Forgot to asked, did you like Conan? Yes, I like Conan, and I am glad I spent the $10. One of some of the best $10 I ever spent. And there's a lot to Conan, but the reason that I like Conan is, and I can fire it up right now, there's nothing to stop me really. I'm not going to play it, but I'm going to fire it up. But I don't know if you saw, but Conan has a very, very good server rule set system where you can modify pretty much every factor in the game to its completion and remove anything about the game that you don't like. Except for the run speed. I couldn't improve the run speed, but that's acceptable. I'm okay with that. The launcher annoyed me. See it? But I don't know. They seem to have enough games here to have a launcher, I suppose. See it? They have enough games that I suppose a launcher is appropriate, I guess. It seems sort of excessive, but like a lot of games that I wouldn't play anymore. But anyways, the launcher is kind of annoying. That kind of set me off. But Conan is a very high quality RPG done with Rust sensibility, but with issues in the vanilla rule set that made the core gameplay loop in vanilla only fun, even in the DLC as well, that made it only fun if other players were involved in some way through either PvE or PvP. Either they're helping you or they're against you. Otherwise, as a solo game, Conan is only good if you modify the rule set, and I will show you this here, as this might be pertinent to you if you are asking. Number 2, it has a very good rule set, the kind of thing that you would see in an RTS or a Dungeons and Dragons game, and I will show you what I'm talking about here once it gets through all of its splashes. Just kill that bird just because it's like free XP essentially.
Aggro.
I can't believe Season of Discovery is already here. I can't believe tomorrow is Season of Discovery. That's insane. Now wait, what time was I going to go to bed here? I have to be up at 7:30 in the morning, and I want 10 hours of sleep. All the servers I saw were on 0, so I got off. Oh, now that problem I didn't see. Yeah, the servers are dead, but there is people playing the game. It's a popular game. If we play online and we come to, like, I don't know, PvP, you'll see that there are some servers with people. I mean, no, not really. No, the PvP scene is dead. There's like 5 active servers. See it? The rest of them are just friends, probably. So, yeah, the rest of them are all like trios and quads. So, yeah, the PvP scene in this game is dead. I don't think PvP was the point of this game ever, though. I think it's something you can do if you want, but I don't think PvP is its main drive at all. The PvE might do better. Let's see. Fucking music's too loud. Nope, dead game. Just straight up dead. It is not a multiplayer game. Not really. There is a scene of about 500 people here, so it's not a dead game, but it's definitely in decline. There's not a lot of people playing this game, and the Japanese server is the one that's the most popular. So you can see that the Japanese, or maybe that's actually Chinese. I think the Chinese server or Asia server is an amalgamated server, and the only active community in the world. There's only like 4 active communities in the world, and they're all the Asian and American communities. There's only about 100 PvE players playing, 200 people, and there's only about 200 PvPers. So, as a online game, Conan Exiles is dead. So let me kill the music because it's just killing the vibe. Jesus Christ, shut the fuck up. I'm sorry. Why do you guys do that stupid 1993 bullshit? Grow the fuck up, you developer fucking children. Anyways, so when I start a new game, it's going to ask me about a server. I want to play in single player, and I want to take a look at custom, and you're going to see a very, very interesting list of things having to do with can damage player-owned structures, time restrict PvP building damage, dynamic building damage period, ownership, sandstorms, clan max sizes, tethering distance, all the stuff that you would find in Rust is here. And I like this, and it's good. Help bar, visibility, distance, all kinds of interesting stuff. For progression, we have player XP rate, player XP time, player XP kill, player XP harvest, player XP craft. There's the day-night cycle, can be completely modified to anything that you can conceive of. The survival can be modified to pretty much any level that you can conceive of. All the DayZ stuff about survival is here, and it can be extremely intense, or it can be nothing at all, depending on what your tastes are. Combat, this system here is a breath of fresh air, and we don't see this very often, and this, I think, in and of itself is worth the $10, and I do not regret my purchase, despite only playing this game probably for a total of 20 or 30 hours or something like that. NPC damage taken was very fascinating to me. The player damage multiplier, you see things like this in Fallout 76 custom mode, but you almost never see this kind of custom ability, and I think the game is a good game when you look at it from this through these lenses, as a single player survival game with good RPG elements, and I would say very good RPG combat if you get the problems that this game has out of the way. So you'll notice I turned the NPC damage taken multiplier up, and suddenly the game didn't play like crappy Dark Souls 1, but with terrible bullet sponge mechanics where every mob would take 75 hits to kill, to about 4 to 5 to 10 hits like New World, and suddenly the combat was 10 times as good. And you can put more mobs in the world if you want. So as a combat spawner, which is something I look for in these survival games, as a combat experience spawner, Conan has very little competition. It definitely excels at that. You can tune this single player game into any experience that you can possibly think of, from one-shot Diablo kills all the way to it takes 10 minutes to kill one mob, and it was a knockdown, drag-out fight with heals and pots and kiting and blocking and rolling, and and he hit me 13 times and I hit him 75 times, and all that bullet sponge shit that you see in Dark Souls and all that, right? So you can spin up the game to play in any manner that you can think of, which I think is evolved. More evolved than almost any other games except for Minecraft, Rust, Valheim, DayZ, 7 Days to Die. There's a few games out there that can match this, but not in this depth. You almost never have they can all match this depth, but in order to have but they don't have this nice Windows UI. They don't have a GUI, right? You've got to go into the console and type in commands and change values, or load the server and change server values when the server's loaded, one or the other, right? Here you can just do sliders, and there's only one other game I can think of that's ever done this, is Fallout 76 Custom Mode, another really extremely good game for the money that'll give you thousands of hours of entertainment for despite how bad the community treated both these games. They're very similar in many ways, like 76 and Conan, in the ways that out of the box they're bad games and buggy and kind of not very fun except without other people, and the storyline's sort of like linear and not very engaging and stuff, and it lacks core gameplay loop at its center, I think, except for the RPG leveling process. So that aspect of this game is extremely deep and absolutely worth the Black Friday $10. I do not regret the $10 purchase. And the reason that I like this is this game will play offline. It is not a DRM restricted game. It's not even a hacking restricted game. You can play cheat. They will allow you to cheat this game however you want, and it is not against their TOS. It's not against their terms of service, believe it or not. Except it is if you go to servers that aren't dedicated to cheating. But the game is so open-minded that it's worth the $10 on the Black Friday sale, in the respect that, like, you know, you can go online and you can find non-EAC games where cheating is expected, and you can mod the game into whatever the fuck you want. You can have naked pedo characters. It doesn't matter. It's your game. If the game has nudity, it is an adult game. It is not a kid's game, this game, at all. Kids should not play this game. It is not a kid's game in any way or form at all. Not the community, not the game itself, not the nudity, not the content. None of it. Like, none of it is kids. None of it. So it has strengths and weaknesses when it comes to that. It has great RP value when it comes to that. Fucking is probably a reoccurring theme in this game because it has that sort of freedom. I doubt it has a sexual congress animation, but all of the RP of a sexual episode is here, more so than even Rust, I think. And so it is definitely a beautiful Baldur's Gate 3 free man's game where you can do whatever the fuck you want in it. And it has that, and I think that makes it a very high value game. But it is a single player game now, and as a single player game, I don't think it shines very strong. But if you modify it to play like New World and you don't know the content, the game is very fun. And if the game in its classic form suffers from bullet sponge, almost the worst I've ever seen any game suffer. Worse than 76. Like the mobs take 80 kills to hit, even on the basic normal difficulty, even on easy. So the game was a bullet sponge game, had a bullet sponge problem the whole initial time anyways, because it's a gear-based eye level game, where if you don't have eye level, you've got to hit a mob 80 times, and the combat's very similar to New World or Dark Souls, so you can lose. You can lose. It's a hard game if you don't have the eye level. So it's good. It's a good game for its time. It's a bad game for 2023. It's a great offline, non-DRM cheater's paradise of a game where it's not even against the terms of service to cheat in this game. It's really not. It's not, as long as you stay on the right servers. You'll get banned if you don't. But I mean, if you go to non-VAC, non-EAC servers, that is totally considered morally white by the developer team. And I think they're one of the more mature teams that's ever existed, who really did love their community and wanted them to have an entire tool set, only rivaled by maybe Dungeons and Dragons, Rust, all the biggins, right? Like Minecraft, the ones that I cited earlier, all the other survival games like DayZ, etc. It's only been rivaled by about 5 other games. So it fits, and it does satisfy that itch better than some of those other games do. I think this game's better than DayZ, kind of. The graphics are not better than DayZ, and the zombies are better than the crappy mobs in this game. but the RPG core at Conan Exiles is deeper than how repetitive the zombie core is to DayZ. So in comparison to other games like DayZ and Rust, I think this game is competitive in the respect that those games don't really usually anyways supply you with a good single player experience. This game does, but it's also boring. It's a good single player experience, but it's also boring because it's like, go build a base, go to a cave, go kill a mob, go do basic survival things that aren't very compelling really. Stuff that you'll do just naturally playing the game anyways. And that's what's considered an MSQ in this game. And there is storyline and there is stuff going on and the world is very deep and there's interesting things going on and Conan's the storyline and all this, but it's not a deep story game in my estimation, at least not in my estimation. It's more of an open-ended sandbox survival game. So when it comes to you said yeah, I'll have to just sit down and play it. Yeah. It is not a main game. I think it's a very good game to visit. I don't think you would be a very happy gamer if you were to sit around Conan Exiles every day for a year. I think you're going to be unhappy with your experience. I think you're going to find a lot of bugs. I think you're going to be unhappy that no one plays the game. I think you're going to be unhappy that the MSQ is frankly boring. I think you're going to be unhappy once you've seen all of the zones and biomes and you know what the combat is and how all the mobs react. And when there's no new content for you anymore, this game immediately drops from like an 8 to a 6, which is why a $10 price point is really good. Like really good. For $10, it's one of the best $10 I've ever spent in my whole life, because you could easily pull 5,000 hours of entertainment out of this title for $10, which by Metacritic standards makes it one of the greatest games of all time. And we'll go look at the Metacritic here. I was going to inevitably do this. We'll also look at the Steam game and player statistics because it just hit Steam for $10. So we're going to look at Steam game player statistics on Conan Exiles and look at what the population of the game actually is on Steam. But remember, this is a console game primarily for the PS4 fanboy culture. It was for the PS4 generation. It's a generation behind even Rust. It's a generation behind DayZ right now. It's a generation behind. It's a console game for the PlayStation 4 era. Don't ever get it twisted. It plays well on the new PCs and the new next gen consoles, but it is not a next gen game in anywhere form. It's got old base graphics. It's got old base concepts that Rust has risen far beyond. So is DayZ. And I think in terms of survival, I think it is actually a very run-in-the-mill survival game. There's not much to write home about the building. There's not much to write home about the survival aspects of it. You can turn the difficulty up, and it plays great as a Bear Grylls survival simulator. And I love it when it comes to that, and that's what I did. I turned up the difficulty and I turned up my damage, and the game plays like Dark Souls or New World, and the mobs die in 3 to 5 hits, but if they hit you, you're dead. And from that perspective, the single player is fun, but it is not compelling enough to keep me there. It's one of the best $10 I ever spent, but I would never spend more than $10 on this game. Now we'll go look at what the critics said. But let me quit out of the game because it's also sort of it's very well optimized, but it's a very intensive game. So graphically, it's a very beautiful game graphically, but it's also not. It is very optimized, like World of Warcraft. I would say they did not neglect the client the way Mortal did, or even Valheim. I would say kind of neglected making their client better, but you could not say that about Conan. Not at all. That client is optimized, runs like a smooth pussy silk dream. Like smooth almond milk dream, just silk dream, it's just pure smooth as pussy silk. It's just a great client, runs great, runs with 3 clients in the background. I definitely give it a 10 in terms of its optimization, and that's very, very rare in this world. A game that actually meets my standards for optimizations, that's very fucking rare in this world. And so it's worth buying, just in my estimation, in the respect that as far as clients go, this client won't fail you ever. It's a solid, well optimized client that will not fuck you around in any way or form. I don't think that's a complaint a lot of the community has. So we'll watch a little bit more of the paramedic things, but we're gonna watch something else that's more on target with what I was talking about, which is Conan's rating is gonna be fairly high, because when it comes to supplying the fanboys with a Minecraft quality experience, it does that in spades, even on a single player tip. And so the normal checkboxes that critics look for, Conan Exiles really ticks. Even the fucking and the cosplay that made Baldur's Gate 3 the fucking game of the year, that's in Conan Exiles. It's there. So no one can ever say that it doesn't tick all of the boxes, even the censorship ones. You can do hentai Conan Exiles if you want to. So it does tick the freedom boxes in a major way. Now Conan Exiles went up on Steam back to $40, it appears. Ugh. Yeah, whatever. Pick a valid date. 1976, yo. Born on the 4th of July. Very positive, mostly positive. May 8th, 2018, but it was in pre-release for like 4 years after that. And this game did not do well on the console, so they gave it away for free on the PSN store, which is how I came to own it and how I know about it. I wouldn't know about Conan Exiles ever if they hadn't given it to me for free on the PSN store, which gives you an idea of how the consoles kind of responded to it. I don't think it got that great of a reception on consoles, but I think the PC fanboys really loved it. And Funcom as a company is a really wonderful company. Got no complaints about Funcom. They've got no skeletons in their closet. They're not a bad company. They're very on theme. They stick to the theme, and they deliver what they promise. They're not a liar like Bethesda or Todd, and they definitely have always delivered really top of the line, really adult MMORPGs going back as far as Anarchy Online. So we love this company. I could fire that launcher up again if I wanted to, but I don't. And I could show you a lineage of games that we didn't play that were really high quality games that spoke well of Funcom. Funcom acquits themselves very, very well. Like very similar to another company that came up tonight, would be another company in the vein of Funcom, would be like Remedy. We needed Funcom. They made a lot of the games that we love. We needed them to shape the MMO industry the way that Remedy shaped the third-person shooter industry, and we needed games like Max Payne and Age of Conan and Conan Exiles out of Funcom. We needed those games. We didn't